We hear parents often say that after they put their child in daycare, the child is always getting sick. Well, as it turns out, it's all quite normal. Dr. Christina Bianchini is a family doctor at the MDCM clinic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So young children are still developing their immune system. So that's what's going on, right?
Yes, and it's quite common to expect all of these illnesses in the first year when children first start daycare. So we often informally refer to it as daycareitis. It's often daycare is their first exposure to a wide variety of viruses and bacteria, and the close contact in daycare settings, especially those with many children, it makes it easier for germs to spread.
I remember one parent telling me that after they put their child in daycare, it seemed like there was always someone in their home sick for about 2 years. So is that the kind of thing that parents should expect?
So yes, as mentioned, it's to be expected. And after discussing with some of my wonderful pediatrician colleagues at our clinic, some of them in fact counsel that we can expect anywhere from 9 to 12 viral infections in that first year of daycare. And given often children take a little bit longer to recover because they're not as effective at clearing their nasal congestion, they get postnasal drip, and then they get that wet cough, it sometimes feels like they're always sick. But the silver lining is that this early exposure helps them build a stronger immune system over time.
But, you know, children are developing their immune systems, but the parents say they're getting sick all the time too. Now, why would that happen? Shouldn't an adult have immune systems that are stronger?
So that's a great question. And yes, adults do have a more developed immune system, but that doesn't make us immune to everything. Because of the close physical contact between parents and their children, through doing things such as feeding, diapering, cuddling, it's very easy for infections to spread within the household. And two main reasons, for the sake of time, because there's many reasons, but two that I want to outline as to why adults are also getting sick, is that number one, viruses constantly change. So many of these infections are caused by respiratory viruses, which tend to mutate over time. And we know this for COVID, we know this for the flu. So even if you have been exposed to a virus before, the new version your child brings home might just be different enough that your immune system doesn't fully recognize it. And then number two, our immune memory isn't perfect. It tends to weaken over time, and especially if we haven't been exposed to certain viruses in years. So if, for example, if this is your first child in daycare, it may be the first time in a very long time that you've been exposed to viruses such as RSV, adenovirus, and some of these viruses require repeated exposure to build that long-term immunity.
So the children are doing the parents a favor too, in other words, is what you're saying, right? But, you know, colds aside, what kinds of things should parents expect their children to come down with?
So as you mentioned, there's the respiratory infections, but you'll also see things such as ear infections, gastroenteritis, so the diarrhea, the vomiting. This is the time of year where we do see the seasonal surges in viruses such as COVID, influenza, and RSV. But then there's also the classic childhood infections that tend to circulate in group settings. So these include croup, strep throat, parvovirus, hand, foot, and mouth, roseola, amongst many, many others. Overall, parents should expect a wide range of viral and bacterial infections, most of which are mild and self-limiting, but definitely some which require medical attention.
So what about the children who don't go to daycare centers? How do they develop their immune systems?
So children who don't attend daycare still have many ways to build their immune systems. They're often exposed to infections through siblings, through parents who work, through play dates, time spent outdoors in the park, or even indoors in large play areas. Breastfeeding can also play a role as maternal antibodies help support the child's early immune defenses. And then there's also the everyday exposure, such as household dust, our furry pet friends. They can all contribute to building our immune systems.
And you mentioned getting medical attention earlier. At what point should a parent consider going to see a doctor?
So in general, I would say that parents shouldn't hesitate to seek medical attention if their child has a fever lasting more than 48 hours or if there's any noticeable change in behavior. So anything like unusual sleepiness, irritability, difficulty breathing, poor appetite, especially for drinking liquids. But just trust your instincts, I would say. If something feels off, it's always okay to have your child checked by a medical professional. And a question I often get from parents is whether these frequent infections means that their immune system isn't working properly. So things that we look for in terms of patterns and whether or not things need more medical attention or further investigations are things like more than 2 pneumonias in a year, anything requiring hospital admission, more than 3 ear infections in 6 months, or any poor weight gain or growth alongside these frequent infections. These patterns help us really assess if further investigations are necessary.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this, Dr. Bianchini. It's been very useful. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.